Bill Hemmer at the board breaking down the results tonight. Bill, as all of this sort of settles in, what are you seeing there?
Yeah, it's very interesting. And you think about the last 7 days of this campaign, how they were trying to drive Curtis Sliwa's numbers down. There was an active campaign here in New York City, and it was in your face just about every day. On top of that, they tried to get each other to drop out, right, during the debate season of 3 weeks ago. The effort to draw Sliwa voters away from him kind of worked, and I'm going to show you why, okay? He's down to single digits. Wasn't enough, all right? Cuomo's at 41.5. Come down here to Staten Island, all right? This is where Sliwa is the strongest. He checked in at 21% of the vote, which is, it's not nothing, okay? But I'm going to show you something from 4 years ago that really stands out. 4 years ago, Sliwa was at 70%. In that one borough of Staten Island, least populated of the 5, I grant you that, about 500,000 people live there. But if the idea was to get those voters, all 69,924 of them, and find a way to support Andrew Cuomo, they found some success in doing that, but it was not enough to catch Mamdani, who got over 50% of that vote, okay? Pop on out here to the big map. I'll show you where it stands right now. A little bit of votes still out there, but anytime you're over 50%, it is really hard, right? I mean, the math will tell you it just doesn't add up. In a three-way race, it makes it even more difficult. So we're starting to see that breakdown here in New York. I want to show you a few things. This is Brooklyn, okay? Brooklyn is really where Mamdani had most of his strength. And we're looking at these precincts, guys, right? Some of these precincts are half a block. Sometimes they're just a city street. That's all right? And some of these precincts are behind Mamdani at greater than 95%. All right, up here in Williamsburg, okay? Heavy Mamdani territory. Into Bushwick, the neighborhood of Bed-Stuy, Park Slope in Brooklyn, and then right here in Borough Park, all right? He hits a wall. In Borough Park, it's Hasidic Jews. And they went for Cuomo overwhelmingly, 88, 89, 90%. But it wasn't in the end enough to overtake Mamdani and the lead that he had spotted himself. I'll point out two more things here quickly, guys. In the governor's race in New Jersey, all the polling said this thing was going to be really close. I tell you right now, with more than 80% of the vote in, Mikey Sherrill, she got a 13-point lead. I can't recall off the top of my head how many polls were out there that had her with a 13-point lead. But that, again, is the number right now in New Jersey. Virginia, real quick before I kick it back to you, we called this some time ago, Abigail Spanberger. I think you can make the case, too, that, I mean, she outperformed a lot of the polls that we had seen for weeks leading up to this campaign. But right now, Democrats 3-0 on the night, guys. Back to you.
Yeah, big wins. We'll come back.
Michael, we've got some breaking news. Tommy, we're going to head to Capitol Hill. Leader Thune is speaking right now on the shutdown.
Reopen the government. Of course, if you look at why we are here in the first place, it's hard to explain. I still don't know exactly what it is they want. We have accommodated a lot of their questions and concerns. They want to have a discussion about health care. We offered that up a long time ago. And, you know, clearly I've talked repeatedly about having a normal appropriations process where we put bills on the floor, open it up to the amendment process, and allow people to have their voices heard and how we fund the government the old-fashioned way. So I'm still at a loss as to what it is exactly they're trying to get out of this. The one thing I do know is as the days roll by, the consequences and pain of this shutdown grow more severe for the American people. And especially if you are a government employee or the family of a government employee who's no longer getting paid. There are more and more stories of people out there who are trying to live paycheck to paycheck. And now you've got the food assistance going away, the SNAP program. You have Head Start and young kids who need to be able to have access to education. That's increasingly at risk. You'll see more and more probably next week with Veterans Day rolling around, Democrats out there posting nice videos and photos with veterans, which most of us probably should and will do. But the better thing they could do is actually support our veterans by opening up the government and allowing these regional offices to get open today, or open again, and allow the GI Bill hotline to start functioning and operating again. There are so many ways in which Americans are impacted by this, and certainly our veterans and our troops come to mind immediately. So I'm hopeful again that this is the week in which the Democrats will conclude that this is not a good thing. And while they may believe politically that it's in their best interest, and obviously we've seen lots of statements that suggest that, it's certainly not in the best interest of the American people. The American people are those who are caught up in the political games being played here in the Senate by the Senate Democrats. All it takes is 5 of them. We have a bill sitting at the desk, which we voted on repeatedly. It came over from the House of Representatives, meaning that as soon as the Senate passes it, it goes directly to the President. He will sign it into law. The government will reopen. And all these adverse consequences that are being experienced by people across this country will go away. That's all it takes. 5 more Democrats, 5 Democrat senators with the courage to take on their political base and their leaders and to do what's in the best interest of the American people.
Mr. Leader, walk us through the play call here, the potential play call here, the idea that there might be some sort of an agreement to move the CR to a later date in January, vote Thursday night, Friday night, something like that. And is there a disagreement between the date between the Senate and the House?
Well, I think obviously, since we are now into November and the CR, we've lost 5 weeks. So the November 21 deadline no longer makes a lot of sense. So clearly it would have to be extended, and there is a conversation around what that next deadline would be. But the hope and expectation would be that we could get appropriations bills on the floor, get them considered and passed, so that we can fund the government through the normal appropriations process.
So just a short time ago, we had the 14th vote to reopen the government, failing once again in the Senate. It's not funny, but it is getting ridiculous in some ways here. It is the longest government shutdown ever. A lot of places suffering. You just saw Sean Duffy's take on what's going on at the airports. And once again, lawmakers reached across the aisle. The independents, Angus King, Democrat Catherine Cortez Masto, Democrat Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman. He says that the shutdown is, quote, wrong, and that he believes his party just needs to own it. I spoke with him just moments ago. Watch. What do you see in terms of the future of this shutdown? Do you think that we're getting close? Do you think it's going to happen after the election? There'll be a resolution?
Well, what I'm saying is that it's not so much as of a blame. I think it's more about what's driving it and who's driving it and who is withholding their votes and are about opening or keeping our government closed. I've been a part of 3, one of 3, as you pointed out, and that means we need 5 more. So for me, that's where we are. And I agree that it's a bad idea to shut our government down. It was wrong if the Republicans would do this as they've done, and it's wrong now as we are doing it this right now. So for me, that is a country over party situation. And now 42 million Americans now are in food insecurity, and all of the unions that are being directly hit by this, and they all have been calling this needs to end. And that's where I'm at. And America's fly system, now that's now been impacted. I fly every week, and I can see more and more delays and cancelings right there on the boards. So why would we want to mess with this now? We're just a couple weeks away from Thanksgiving. I think we've reached the point now. This really has to end, and it's not about the blame or who's going to blink. Right now, I think this thing, it's entirely appropriate, has to end.
Do you sense that there's any momentum among your Democrat colleagues to finish this, or are they waiting till after the election tonight?
I wouldn't describe it as momentum, but I would describe it of they realizing it's getting harder and harder to rationalize keeping our entire government down. And it doesn't mean there's 47 of us and we need 5 more. So this doesn't need a wave. It just needs 5 more colleagues to say, look, we can all 47 of us agrees we should want to extend our tax credits and make our health insurance more affordable. But now we need 5 more to agree this has gone too long and it needs to end. And everyone deserves to get paid. And we want to make sure everyone gets fed. And now we are sending the wrong message at this point.
I want to ask you about the election. Obviously, we're in the middle of Election Day, and voters are going to the voting booth. A lot of them have already sent in their votes. As a Democrat, looking at the New York City mayoral election, just one state away from you, and we share borders with New Jersey as well, obviously. How would you approach, if you were a New York voter, your decision between Cuomo and Mamdani?
Well, I mean, it's hypothetical. What I'm saying is, it's like this is going to be New York City's choice, and that is not a lesson for Democratic Party national and the politics. That's not really relevant. It's a very left city, and they're entitled to pick their next leader, and that's where we're going to find out.
But it does seem, when you look at democratic socialism, I remember when Bernie Sanders was the only socialist politician in American politics, prominent. And we had a socialist senator up in the state of Vermont, which was kind of surprising to a lot of Americans. Now you have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you have Mamdani in New York, you have a candidate in Kentucky, a candidate in Minneapolis. It feels like this is growing in America. What is your message to Democrat voters about how they should see that movement?
Well, I represent Pennsylvania, and now for me, it's socialism isn't my party's future, certainly not. And now I think if Mamdani wins, I don't think he's going to be campaigning in all of the kinds of states that are going to determine who's going to, decide who's going to be the next president. And I will too, whether it's a thing, it is a voice from New York City, and that is not our Democratic Party's future. And for all of these kinds of states, whether like the purple states, I don't think you're going to see a lot of campaigning from a socialist or for people that have these very extreme kinds of views and opinions.
Yeah, I want to play something for you from Nancy Pelosi talking about President Trump. Watch this.
He's just a vile creature, the worst thing on the face of the earth. But anyway.
You think he's the worst thing on the face of the earth?
I do, yeah, I do.
She called him a vile creature and the worst thing on the face of the earth. What's your response to that, Senator?
Well, I would say that's part of the worst creatures on the face of the earth are Hamas, or like the leadership of Iran, or there's a lot of people on that. I would never use those kind of terms, and I wouldn't describe our president. You can really disagree with him, and I do disagree, but I don't think that's really entirely appropriate, but that's her words for that. So for me, that's just a different kinds of a Democrat for me. I don't going to call people they're fascists, they're Nazis, or compare the people in those kinds of terms. If you use those kind of terms, now you might have to realize that if you voted for them as well, and I know people that have done that in my state, and I know those people aren't fascists or they're trying to destroy our democracy either. And that's different as a Democrat here.
You have really struck an independent chord in terms of your stance on a lot of things with regard to Israel. You just mentioned Hamas. And some people look at your career and how you've carved out your independence. And I know you spoke to Jesse Waters last night and you said, I'd make a terrible Republican. Do you plan to run for Senate again in 2028? Or would you entertain the possibility of running against perhaps Gavin Newsom for the nomination of the Democratic Party for president?
2028 is a long time. It's far away. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? And Phil, where I'm at right now, it's like I've been very, very unapologetically a supporter of Israel, and I believe in a secure our border, and I believe it's wrong to shut our government down. And that may have put me at odds with parts of my base, but I would be the one Democrat to just describe what I think is where Democrats should be. And now that's very compatible with our core values, like defending the 42 million Americans on SNAP, or the unions, all the Teamsters and the air traffic controllers, all those unions. I'm standing with them by saying, open this up, pay our military, pay our military.